In the pitch-black night of February 8th, 1944, Sergeant Tommy Prince crept through the muddy Italian countryside. The scout of an elite commando unit known as the Devil's Brigade was on a daring mission to spy on German artillery positions near Littoria. His keen eyes, honed by years of hunting on the Indigenous reservation where he grew up, spotted an abandoned farmhouse just 200 yards from the enemy lines. Perfect. Prince set up his observation post, painstakingly running 1,400 yards of telephone wire back to the Allied position. For 24 grueling hours, he watched, reporting every German movement. Allied artillery pounded the enemy positions based on his intel. Victory seemed within grasp. All of a sudden, the wire went silent. The shelling had severed the line. This was serious. If he couldn't re-establish communication, the mission would fail. The lives of countless Allied soldiers were at risk. Yet, if he went outside to fix the cable, he would be in plain view of the Germans and certainly shot within seconds. Prince's mind raced. He needed a plan, fast. His heart pounding, he frantically searched the farmhouse for anything that could help him. There was nothing but a few farm tools and some old clothes. Prince began to accept the futility of his situation, and suddenly, the seemingly useless objects around him inspired a dangerous idea. A moment later, he stepped into the open battlefield. Tommy Prince mastered subterfuge and adaptability on the World War II front, and now you can also experience the freedom to execute your own combat strategies with an unparalleled level of control with War Thunder. Available for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, War Thunder is much more than a game. It's an in-depth battlefield simulation where 2,500 different vehicles from 10 major nations are at your command, ready to execute anything from tactical ambushes to full-scale assaults. With War Thunder's in-depth customization, you can craft your fleet to match your strategy. Each vehicle offers a range of historical camouflages, community-created decals, and authentic markings. From World War II bombers with iconic nose art to the distinctive paint schemes of modern tanks, you can make each machine your own. No extra hardware is needed either. War Thunder lets you pilot any plane or tank straight from your keyboard or controller, even in the immersive simulator mode. The Daegor engine behind War Thunder optimizes each battle for smooth, visually stunning combat, so you can jump into the action without a hitch, even on lower-end machines. And no two battles are alike. You'll face real players from across the globe in intense PvP combat, strategizing on land, in the skies, and across the seas. At Dark Docks, we're hooked on testing tactical maneuvers in War Thunder's realistic mode, executing surprise attacks and ambushes as if we're taking a page right out of Tommy Prince's playbook. Join over 70 million players and start your journey for free. And for those who are new or returning after 6 months, use our link below to grab an exclusive bonus pack. Multiple premium vehicles, the Eagle of Valor Decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account, all available for a limited time. Thomas George Prince was born in Petersfield, Manitoba on October 20th, 1915, one of 11 children born to Henry and Arabella Prince of the Brokenhead Ojibwe Nation. He was the great-grandson of Peguis, the famous Saulteaux chief who had led his people from Sault Ste. Marie to the Red River in the 1790s. Prince's family also had a strong military background, with various members having served in the Canadian Armed Forces, including during World War I. Though Prince initially hoped to become a lawyer, he maintained his family's military connection by joining his school's Royal Canadian Army Cadet Unit, where he excelled. He later said, quote, "As soon as I put on my uniform, I felt a better man. I even tried to wear it to class." Growing up on the Brokenhead Reserve gave him further opportunities to develop valuable skills. His father, a hunter and trapper, taught him marksmanship and tracking. Soon, Prince demonstrated remarkable marksmanship, consistently landing 5 shots within a playing card-sized area from a distance of 100 yards. However, as the devastating effects of the Great Depression set in, his family was hit hard, and he was forced to drop out of school and take a series of odd jobs as a laborer and lumberjack. When World War II broke out in September 1939, Prince knew he could serve his country well. Although First Nations members were exempt from conscription, he volunteered for the Canadian Army. Despite seemingly being a perfect candidate, he was inexplicably rejected several times. Yet, when France fell to the Nazis in June 1940, the army would need every man they could get. On June 3rd, he was finally accepted and was soon bound for England as a member of the Royal Canadian Engineers. His natural abilities quickly became apparent, and by February 1941, he'd been promoted to Lance Corporal. Nevertheless, with the war in Western Europe now mostly being fought at sea and in the air, Prince soon got bored with life on base. When he heard about the creation of a new unit called the 2nd Canadian Parachute Battalion, he saw an opportunity to get closer to the action. After completing a parachute course, he was one of just 9 men out of 100 volunteers selected for further training, and by September 1942, he was headed back across the Atlantic to join the new unit. However, the 2nd Canadian Parachute Battalion didn't actually exist. In reality, it was part of a cover-up for a new secret joint American-Canadian Special Operations Unit. This elite commando team would soon be officially designated the 1st Special Service Force, though its daring exploits would lead it to be immortalized by another name, the Devil's Brigade. The risks involved with the missions it was designed to carry out were so high that only single men were permitted to join. Prince and his fellow recruits soon found themselves being transported on trains with blacked-out windows to a highly classified location in Montana. There, they began a rigorous training regime, working on specialized skills in stealth tactics, amphibious missions, hand-to-hand combat, demolitions, rock climbing, and winter warfare. In this environment, Prince was in his element. With the tracking and marksmanship skills he had learned in the Canadian wilderness, his superiors quickly identified the role he would be best suited to, and he became a reconnaissance sergeant, officially known in the force as a scout. After a brief and uneventful deployment to Alaska, in November 1943, the 1st Special Service Force was reassigned to Italy, where it was hoped their expertise in mountain warfare would prove useful in taking on one of the Allies' most daunting challenges of the campaign so far: the twin peaks of Monte la Difensa and Monte Maio, the imposing mountains which anchored the German defensive lines in Italy. In December, the force took Monte la Difensa by waiting until nightfall before climbing a sheer cliff face and defeating the enemy soldiers at the top. However, Monte Maio would prove more difficult. Its slopes were bristling with artillery and machine gun nests arranged in layers, making any frontal assault an impossible endeavor. Commander of the 1st Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Gilday, knew a conventional attack would end in disaster. He needed a miracle, or a ghost. His eyes fell on Tommy Prince. Prince had already caught Gilday's attention for his ability to silently creep up to enemy positions wearing traditional Ojibwe moccasins and attack his targets before they knew what had hit them. If anyone stood even the slightest chance of pulling off the almost impossible mission of infiltrating the German defenses under cover of darkness and neutralizing the gun emplacements on Monte Maio's lower and middle slopes, it was him. However, while success would open a path for the main assault force, failure would mean certain destruction. On the evening of January 8, 1944, Prince led his small patrol into the darkness, moving like a shadow as he melted into the night. At the mountain's base, Prince left his men behind as backup and began his ascent alone. He infiltrated one German position after another and silently dispatched the enemy soldiers. He never revealed exactly how he did it, but somehow Prince neutralized every German position on 2/3 of the slopes of Monte Maio, without a single enemy shot fired or alarm raised. When the main force began their assault, they found the German bunkers eerily silent. When they reached the summit, they caught the Germans completely by surprise, and by 5:30 a.m., the mountain was in Allied hands. Prince's extraordinary actions undoubtedly changed the course of the battle. Yet, while the Canadian contingent of the Devil's Brigade was awarded the battle honor Mount Maio for their success as a unit, due to the classified nature of his mission, Prince received no individual medal. However, the following month, near Littoria, Prince would have another chance to show what he was made of. On February 5th, he volunteered for a dangerous solo reconnaissance mission, setting up an observation post in an abandoned farmhouse mere yards from German artillery positions. For 24 hours, he reported enemy movements via a telephone line running back to Allied lines, allowing his comrades to score a string of victories against the enemy. However, when shelling cut the wire, Prince's communications with his unit were broken. Isolated and alone, he had to think on his feet if he were to save the Allies' mission from ending in disaster. Finding civilian clothes and farming tools inside the house, he came up with an audacious plan. Having heard tales of Italian civilians who stubbornly refused to leave their homes and daily activities, even when they found themselves in the middle of a battlefield, he disguised himself as a local farmer and boldly stepped out of the house in plain view of the German soldiers. Carefully maintaining his act as a disgruntled resident by angrily shaking his fist at the troops on both sides, he began tending to the crops, working his way along the field to the broken line before pretending to tie his shoes so he could quickly splice the wire. Fortunately, his ruse worked perfectly. The Germans never suspected the farmer was actually an Allied scout. Returning to the farmhouse, he resumed communications and was able to direct his unit in the destruction of 4 more German artillery positions. Prince finally reunited with his comrades after a total of 3 days behind enemy lines. Lieutenant Colonel Gilday inquired about the mysterious Italian peasant spotted near Prince's observation post. A sly grin spread across Prince's face as he revealed the truth. Though impressed by Prince's convincing performance, Gilday explained to Prince the grave risk he had taken. Had the Germans captured him in disguise, he would have been branded a spy and executed. Fortunately, Prince successfully escaped such a fate and was instead awarded the military medal on Gilday's recommendation. Soon enough, Prince's reputation among both Allied and German forces took on mythic proportions. He initiated a series of lone nighttime operations, eluding enemy sentries to penetrate their encampments. He would plant enigmatic notes, steal boots, and occasionally use his knife to silently eliminate enemy personnel. These psychological operations instilled a sense of dread in the German ranks, who began calling him Geist, meaning ghost, or Teufel, meaning devil. Prince established his own unofficial sharpshooting routine, hiding out in no man's land during the night and using his exceptional marksmanship skills to take out any unwary enemy soldiers. However, the Germans also had an ace sniper who they used to attack the force's positions. Prince made it his mission to defeat his rival, and the 2 expert riflemen soon found themselves engaged in an intense contest of wits and aim as each one attempted to neutralize the other. The duel came to an end when Prince delivered a fatal shot, sending his adversary falling from the tree he had been hiding out in. Unnerved by Prince's clandestine activities and the Devil's Brigade's fierce reputation, the Germans eventually withdrew their lines by nearly 2.5 miles. After contributing significantly to Rome's liberation in June 1944, the 1st Special Service Force was redeployed to France. On September 1st, Prince and a fellow soldier embarked on a perilous mission, infiltrating German territory near Les Garennes to gather intelligence. As they advanced, the duo stumbled upon a German reserve battalion's bivouac. Prince, demonstrating remarkable stealth, conducted extensive surveillance of the enemy camp. Utilizing the natural vegetation as camouflage, he managed to observe the German forces at close range without detection. During their return journey, Prince and his companion encountered an unexpected skirmish between German units and French resistance fighters. Seizing the opportunity, the pair positioned themselves strategically and began picking off German soldiers from behind. Their precision fire felled approximately a dozen enemy troops and wounded numerous others, forcing the Germans to retreat in disarray. In the aftermath, Prince approached the leader of the resistance unit, who inquired about the location of Prince's company. To the Frenchman's astonishment, Prince gestured to his lone comrade. The resistance commander, believing a force of 50 had come to their aid, was so impressed he recommended Prince for the Croix de Guerre. Tragically, the courier carrying this recommendation never reached General de Gaulle. Prince pressed on, successfully breaching German lines to rejoin his unit. He then guided the force back to the German Reserve Battalion's position. On September 5th, alongside the French resistance fighters they had earlier assisted, Prince led an assault on the enemy encampment. The operation resulted in the neutralization of the entire German battalion, with roughly 1,000 enemy soldiers either eliminated or captured. Throughout this grueling 72-hour ordeal, Prince had traversed over 40 miles of challenging mountain terrain without food or rest. His extraordinary efforts earned him an American Silver Star, making him one of the few soldiers in history to claim both that award and the military medal. After World War II ended, Prince returned to civilian life. However, he struggled to adjust. Despite his decorated service, as an Indigenous man, he faced discrimination and limited opportunities. When the Korean War broke out in 1950, Prince saw it as a chance to serve his country once again. Re-enlisting with the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, Prince was soon back in action. In Korea, he reprised his role as a skilled scout and reconnaissance expert. He led numerous snatch patrols, small teams that would venture into enemy territory, launch surprise attacks, and quickly withdraw. During one mission in February 1951, Prince led an 8-man team on a daring night raid. They infiltrated a Chinese position and captured 2 heavy machine guns, all without alerting the enemy or suffering any casualties. Despite his continued success on the battlefield, the Korean War took a heavy toll on Prince. The harsh conditions and constant combat aggravated old injuries. His knees, damaged from years of parachute jumps and combat, began to fail him. In November 1952, during the Second Battle of the Hook, Prince was wounded by shrapnel. True to form, he refused evacuation, using his bayonet to remove shrapnel from his own legs so he could continue fighting. He even carried a wounded comrade to safety, despite his own injuries. Eventually, the physical and mental strain became too much. Prince was hospitalized for combat stress, what would likely be diagnosed as PTSD today. He was still recovering when the Korean War armistice was signed in 1953, bringing his combat career to an end. Prince got married, had children, took a job at an ice cream factory, and continued to advocate for Indigenous rights and veterans issues, but struggled with prejudice and the lasting effects of his war experiences. He would become a hero one more time in June 1955 when he saved the life of a man who was drowning in the Red River. Tragically, Prince's later years were marked by hardship as he fought depression, alcoholism, poverty, and homelessness. Though he eventually overcame his battle with alcohol, he passed away on November 25, 1977, at the age of 62. Today, Tommy Prince is one of Canada's most celebrated soldiers. His name graces streets, schools, and military facilities across the country, as well as scholarships and awards. In 2019, Prince was officially recognized as a person of national historic significance, cementing his place in Canadian history. The issuance of a commemorative postage stamp in 2022 further solidified his status as a national hero. Download War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. Use the link below, and if you're new or returning after 6 months, you'll receive a massive bonus pack with premium vehicles, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. Don't wait. This bonus is for a limited time only.